all you listeners out there, you know what this week is. It is finally the series finale of Poldark. We got a lot to talk about this episode. Let's get into it.
And it's the end of the road with Poldark. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. How about you, Dave?
I'm good. We just watched, it was spoiler alert, we're recording this a few days earlier than we normally do. Mm-hmm. And we just dealt with a WrestleMania that definitely did not serve us the conclusions that we needed. So it was kind of nice to watch something that had some conclusions.
You know what's wild is, we'll talk about how we feel about the finale, but they inject so much into it, it just had me revved up. It was like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing, okay, all right. Now I'm just like, okay, let's get another season of this. And no, it's over. We've reached the end of the line for Poldark right now, unless we read the books.
Yeah, but this is totally off base from the books this season, I believe, right?
Right, it's not based upon any book. The only thing that they had to work to do was to connect the dots of Ross becoming a covert op by the time we see him in the next book. Which is, I think, what this entire episode is concerned about.
Yeah, maybe this episode is like, look, we want to encourage literacy, and we want people to read more. So if we just set this up so it leads into the later books, then we're fine.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we have to deal with today, and I'll beat you to it, Dave. There's no other news going on out there. It's dry times for every other show that we follow. It doesn't help.
There's one piece of news, though.
Oh, yeah?
One piece of Hugh Bonneville news. Lords of Grantham adjacent news.
Tell me. Fill me in.
Paddington's going to Peru, baby.
The bear?
Starts filming in July.
They're sending him down to Peru? The darkest Peru?
Paddington number 3. Paddington in Peru.
Who knew? Okay. That's good. That's heartening. It's been a long time since the last one. It's been about 5 years.
Yeah. I wonder if this is like a COVID related, like this would have happened earlier, but it's so far down the line.
I think it's the first two films elevated the profile of the director so much that he had too many other opportunities that he couldn't turn down. And also I think they just ran out of ideas for Paddington, that team, so...
I feel like this going to Darkest Peru is where we got to go. So
I guess so. Although he's known for his time in London, but yeah, we got to go to Peru.
We got to. I mean, we've spent 2 movies in London. Mm-hmm. We got to go back. We got to bring the Londoners to where the Paddington is from.
Who is he going to run into in Peru? Paddington Bear.
His father.
Who plays his father?
Oh, that's a good Jim Carter.
Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah.
Better not be Idris Elba. It'll be Chris Pratt who plays his father.
Make it Vin Diesel. My son.
I mean, well, I guess it can't be a Brit, so it's got to be someone, maybe Pedro Pascal or something. Who's a famous Peruvian?
That's a good question. Forgive us, Peru, for not knowing more Peruvian stars. Okay.
I wonder if the whole gang is going to be in for the whole movie, or they're just going to sort of first act and get them out.
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe we should get Ross. We could get Aidan Turner to show up as his father. He's sailing the seas, huh?
As a human. With, like, prosthetics.
I mean, if he's just Ross Poldark, the number of kids that he's had, why not? He's
yeah. We'll get to that as we go.
Some descendant. Yeah, we should just get to this episode, though.
We should just get to this episode because this is
it's packed.
It's the last one, and it does not feel like the last one. Like I want more.
It's like they're just rearing up to go, or they just realized, oh wait, there's a lot of story we had to tell, and we spent most of our season with this Ned Despard character when we should have been doing maybe this.
As we get started, I will own up to my mistake. Kitty and Cecily gone. Mm-hmm. Though seemingly they bring her up and they kind of trash, like, without spoiling much. At the very end, they're like, Jeffrey Charles, this is what your future's going to be like, and you're going to get over Cecily. Like, what? What kind of storytelling is that for the last season to tell him to, like, forget? Like, it's not a big deal. You're going to be over it soon enough.
Well, I mean, long story short, let's just cover the low-hanging fruit here, which is Jeffrey Charles. He doesn't have much of a plot this episode.
Yeah.
It's really, at the end, he says, well, I got back into the military. They just let me back in.
I thought for sure he was going to inherit his father's house.
I mean, he could, based on
No,
where
he
we're going.
didn't.
But no, no. And I'm sure Ross pulled some strings for him to get back into the military.
Yeah, definitely.
But to your point, Dave, by the time this episode wraps, Jeffrey Charles could go to, not Peru, Honduras.
Jamaica.
And realistically reconnect with Cicely and be fine, be happy. But no, he's just like, I'm just going to serve in the military. Huh? After this whole season?
Yeah. I mean, why not say, oh, you're going to, in this moment of humility for George, he goes, he realizes, maybe I shouldn't have been so down on Jeffrey Charles because he's not Ross and he's he's Elizabeth's son. Yep. He should have the house that he grew up in. Then we see like maybe Jeffrey Charles gets a letter from Cecily saying like, I heard you got the house. I'm on my way. And we get a glimmer of, no, but he's like, I'm going to go put my life on the line for my country.
I mean, and we even see at the beginning of this episode, they preface us 5 months later, and he's still sad over Cicely. They even say, like, is everything okay? No, well, I'm getting over it. It's like, it almost works as an ad for the military. You want to get over something? You got a problem? Just sign up.
Enlist.
Yeah. And that is the whole theme of Poldark that we've come around to learning from these 5 seasons. If you want to
this is not a show about mines and miners. This is a show about patriotism and duty.
And enlisting. And that's what rises you above the ranks here. Okay, so that takes care of Jeffrey Charles.
Morwenna's very much going to give birth.
Which, I don't know. How long did it take people back then to figure out if they were pregnant or not?
Apparently 4 months.
Because, for the timeline to work here, either she's having a premature child or, she just took her a minute to realize, oh, wait a second, that stomach isn't just me gaining weight. It's a baby. Well, all on top of everything else that changes too when you're pregnant. But still, all the same.
I haven't had my period in 4 months, but that's just me being me. Uh-oh.
Yeah. And, we do see in this episode the school. It's been built in record time in these 5 months. They've built this entire...
It's like Jehovah's Witness temple.
It's tall.
They had everyone put their hands in,
and
they did it. They got it done.
And all I could think is, like, this is a massive structure for 27 pupils, they say? That's it?
That's a good number, though.
It's good. It's good. But, it's thriving.
Yeah, and Rosina's going to be the teacher once Morwenna goes and has the baby.
I hope she's learned enough to take over by then.
Morwenna seems to either not care enough or she's like, hey, you actually are smart, or she's like, nah, I'm done. I'm cashed out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dave, you recall when we had substitute teachers, it was just coasting while the real teacher was out. So I think that's what these kids are in store for.
And this is a long-term sub.
Could be.
It's going to be a semester that they all forget.
Anyway, some events happen in the episode where Drake has to take care of business, which stresses out Morwenna so severely. She goes into labor.
She goes into labor standing up.
Uh-huh.
And then gives birth in like an hour.
I'm sure this happens. I've never seen this in any TV show though, where she's kind of just lurched forward, and it looks like she's dumping out this baby. Like that's what it looks.
It really does.
They really don't do her any favors.
And then Demelza comes in. She's like, "I'm gonna deliver a baby. Let's do it. Game on. Let's play."
She pulls up her sleeves like, "Let's get in there."
And they're like, "Oh no, the baby's already born."
And it was clean.
Her out.
That baby had no placenta on it at all. It was totally just, ready.
Just one like old white rag, still white. That thing that floor would be gross.
I mean, maybe if you deliver it that way,
she didn't even lie down.
I know. That's what I was thinking. Why isn't she on her back? But I was more concerned for her because based on the timeline, I just kind of assumed she wasn't ready to have the child, and the way they kept portraying how dramatic this was, like I thought something was going to go wrong in this moment. Like we're going to have some kind of loss. And then no, the baby comes out beautiful, and then Drake shows up like, oh yeah, I just kind of dodged out.
Something does go terribly wrong for this baby. It gets its name.
Well, yeah. But it's fine. 1 second, though. It's just that Drake was supposed to be involved with some task, and he just happens to show up right on time. Like, it wasn't that dramatic as they were planning it up to be. But okay. As you're saying, the most dramatic moment is the naming of the child.
Love Day.
Terrible.
This makes Ursula seem like a great name.
It makes Valentine sound like a fantastic name. What?
I mean, it is. It's a synonym for Valentine. Love Day.
And maybe it would be better if it wasn't so clumsily laid out where, man, what a day. What love. Oh, that's a name. Love. What?
That's what you get for letting a simpleton like Drake Karn name a baby.
The fact that Morwenna
Your brother's a preacher. There's like a gazillion half-decent biblical names you could have used.
Mm-hmm.
No. Love Day.
She's going to be so bullied growing up because of that name. All these kids are going to be friends because they're bullied for their names growing up. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, Ursula, Valentine, Cloence.
And the thing is, they're going in these wild directions, and what are the names of the parents that are having them? Okay, Morwenna is a little bit out there, but Drake, it's pretty basic. Ross, it's pretty basic.
George.
Elizabeth. I mean, Demelza is
Francis.
A little bit... Yeah, you just go down the line, and so many of these names are so... I don't know.
And Demelza and Morwenna are not cringe-inducing.
No.
Also, Morwenna's got John Conan over in who knows where.
Yeah.
Another unfinished plot point.
Well, we can dig in on that next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know in Britain, there was a history of like, your last name is the trade that you operated in and stuff like that. But the first names, it doesn't go like this. That ain't it.
No, that's a curse.
But they have the child, and that's their happily ever after, them having a child.
Yeah, seems like a very linear season for them.
Yeah, for the most part, him just saying like "let me in," and she would be like, "Okay." Well, no, she did stalk that child for a few episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there was that, but not much.
Yeah. So Sam, Sam on the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, Tess is up to no good, and we'll get deeper down that hole as we continue to talk about the episode, but it seems as though Tess she goes by Sam, and Sam's like, hey, it's been a while since we've studied together, and she goes, I got bigger fish to fry than you. And just leaves him high and dry.
Doesn't even turn around to look at him, just keeps walking.
Makes you wonder why this was a necessary plot point in the first place.
To give you some kind of happy ending for Sam.
For Sam?
Yeah.
But is it a happy ending for our pal Rosina? She's been tossed around emotionally by these Karn boys.
That's the thing that baffles me is, like, you're telling me there's no other men in the town that you could go for? There's got to be someone else than just this preacher boy. I get that you may have fallen for him, but come on. There's so many other people out there.
Mm-hmm.
But, she does confess to Morwenna that, I'm still in love with that guy.
With that preacher.
Yep.
That hunky preacher.
And they're like, well, you can do something about that. And so she tells him, hey, I'm still down if you're down. We were a wed at one point, which I don't know what that means exactly when she says a wed. They weren't engaged at all.
I think they were discussing it. It wasn't. I mean, they don't really date Possibly. In this show. They're just kind of like, I like you. Do you want to marry me?
Right. Check yes or no. And yeah, Sam right there, he says, yes, I'm still down. I'm single.
Very single.
And before you know it, they're married.
Well, yeah.
That's the last scene of all the people in Cornwall. They're all celebrating them with the flowers. I assume that's what the flowers are around them and everything.
Yeah.
Unless it's like an engagement party, but
no, they're getting married. Sam wants to knock some boots.
I do like the one moment though where like Rosina walks by and then Drake kind of like punches his brother in the shoulder like, "Hey, check her out, man.
Welcome to the club, bro.
I almost married her. You do good to do the same."
It's like if it wasn't for
More
Ozzy Whitworth getting killed or whatever happened to him, getting hogtied.
Oh man. Well, good on them.
Sure.
I thought Sam, he acted pretty well this episode. He had a grin on his face, like as if he knew something's going to work out for me. God's got my back.
Yeah. It seemed like the other scene where we see him, I guess, keep beating around the bush. This plan that Ross has in play, when there's the big reveal that like the second unit is the Corn Boys and Zachy. I'm like, Sam is in on this? What?
Yeah. Domestic terrorism? Or trying to avoid that, I guess. Okay. Good to see Zachy getting in on the business here in this episode. He just gets like 1 or 2 lines, but the dude is so pumped up to be there.
Oh, and you see him, it's like, yeah, Zachy.
Yeah.
Woo!
Well, I mean, I think I guess we could talk about Dwight before we get to the main plot line, or Dwight kind of figures
that's
into
an
it,
easy
though.
enough one to. Well, Dwight does factor into things, but I think the Dwight and Caroline of it all can exist in its own discussion.
Sure.
Wherein Caroline, she basically says that she has some doubts in Dwight as a trustworthy partner.
Yep.
And she says that a situation unfolds where there's going to be some house guests, and it's reminiscent of Kitty. And Caroline brings up the fact that she thought that there was a romantic relationship between
Keeps
Kitty and
insisting
Dwight.
on it.
And I mean, pretty baffling.
Yeah.
And she brings up, we finally, Dr. Dwight has to own up to the fact that he did that thing to Karen that wound up getting her killed.
Well, does he own up to it? She accuses...
He's like, that's not happening again, and that's not what it's like with Kitty. I don't have feelings for Kitty.
I do find it funny though, because like we don't really. It's not really clear to me that Caroline is aware of that history until this episode. And I just want to know what that conversation was, where they're just swapping stories about exes, and he just tells her outright, "Yeah, well, I was hooking up with this lady who was betrothed to another man once." And
then he killed her, and then he ran away with the help of my best friend, Ross.
But you don't have to worry about that, Caroline. That's in the past.
You wonder if Caroline's like, I feel like Caroline was a party girl, so she might have gotten, had a friend or two. But at the same time, this is the early 1800s. I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like we could have used a scene earlier this season, maybe, of him like somehow fumbling out that story to her to kind of place that seed of mistrust, because it doesn't really seem to manifest at all this season until he has his work and that bothers her because he keeps that private. But the Kitty thing comes out of nowhere, and then she still starts accusing him of that, and then it's only until halfway through the episode where she starts to say, well, I was kind of using the Kitty thing as an excuse because I'm just insecure, about...
Yeah, after she holds Love Day,
yep,
she says, I realized I closed my heart after we lost our last kid. Mm-hmm. And I was afraid to open it back up, so I blamed the fact that you slept with a woman who wound up getting murdered by her husband as a reason to keep you at an arm's length.
Yep. And that is that. So, Dwight pretty much promised her, like, we'll be done with that, okay?
That only happened the one time that the woman was murdered. Because I was sleeping with her.
And so they say, we tried to have the baby that one time. It went sideways, didn't work out. Well, what are we to not try it again? What do we got to lose, really? Let's do it. Let's give it another go.
They have a really nice conversation about why they're emotionally detached, and they seem more like friends than partners. Mm-hmm. So it was a nice moment. Nice closure to why Caroline's been a little funky around Dwight the whole season.
And they're closer now. They're ready to give it another shot. Yeah,
definitely.
Although, it's so funny because, like, the fact that they were talking about trying to get her pregnant and everything, I thought she was already pregnant on the show just based on her looks and stuff.
I thought that reveal could be coming at any moment.
But then I just look up and I see that the actress was pregnant at the same time. And it's like, what a missed opportunity just to say she's pregnant and then like show the baby.
Especially when you take the story into your own hands. You're not going off of any source material.
And yeah, exactly. And to my eyes, she also looked visibly pregnant the past 2 or 3 episodes. I don't know what they were trying to hide.
Like the doctor, you should have been like, hey man.
Yeah.
You're pregnant.
Just look at her.
I've seen this before.
That was her 3rd child too, the actress.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still got those long arms, lean arms.
Still got them. So, anyways, kudos to that couple being happy.
Mm-hmm. Which I think leaves us just pretty much the meat of the episode.
Which is the Ross of it all, right?
The Ross of it all. He's been deep undercover for 5 months, being emotionally negligent to his wife, to be on the level with this French guy.
Roscoff.
Yeah.
But, like, again, we've seen him say this so many times over, which is just like, he would never lie to Demelza again. And yet, this is him lying to her. And I understand they go to great lengths to try and justify it, but at the same time...
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. Do you have to do that for 5 months?
Yeah.
So, and not only is he lying to Demelza, within this sort of lie, this false reality that he's sort of stoking to keep the French on his side, he's leading Tessa on.
Yeah.
Which, I was like, this is not necessary.
So they did a good fake out there of like, they do the 5 months forward, and then Ross is entertaining Tess, and I was like, what is going on here? And now, to preface this all, my mom watched this entire series. After we started covering it, she was like, oh, I'll watch that, and then she just watched the whole thing. And she's been emphatic the whole way, like, I like the show, I didn't like the ending. I didn't like the way they wrapped it up. And so when I started this episode, it was like, oh, is this actually happening? Is this why she hates it? Because all of a sudden Ross is just with Tess out of nowhere? They had me for a second there until Demelza is listening in. And I was like, no.
Yeah, well, I mean, they never have. I said, come on now. And because they show her as a French sympathizer. And if she was just like hovering around Ross and then they both kind of start leaning into the French stuff, she's like, who would have thought I'd be stealing a war and helping the French Revolution? And Ross is like, yes.
I like that. But yeah, we do see a few. I mean, kudos to Aidan Turner because he really is convincing at having some chemistry with her that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, because this actress is very much a buzzkill.
Yeah, and so like she's goosing around with him a couple times in this episode, and he's just saying. Even he's on the beach with her, and George and the boys see him down there. Like, oh, it doesn't seem like Ross is such a stand-up fellow there, stepping out on his woman, the skullduggery woman.
Like, yeah, Valentine is there. They're like, there he is.
They're all just looking at him in broad daylight.
Uncle Carrie's like, hey, check him out. Hey, man, hey, Ross, I see you.
Look up here. Well, if we want to break it up, well, the Tess of it all, she's just a pawn in this whole thing of Ross getting undercover to get in good with the French. And when Demelza chews out Ross, because she's like, oh, well, I guess it's hard to kind of go down that, but either way, Tess ends up single by the end of it, and the parting shot of Tess is just her marching off into the stones over the water.
Yeah, she's gonna take a long walk off a short pier in this one.
Which, to put a button on Tess, what a strange season. She's just there to make the lives of the Poldarks miserable, and that's it.
She doesn't grow. So spoiler alert, obviously they all make it out alive, and Ross is like, I spared you. I could have had you sent to jail with the rest of those people, but I chose not to. After all you did, you tried to set my house on fire, you messed with my wife, you messed with me, you stole from me. Can't you just be done with it? And she's like, no. They should have just taken they should have had renegade justice. Maybe, that's where Verity comes in. She's like, oh, no. Honor for my family's name. And just
Slap her.
from the grassy knoll.
The thing, I think the most disappointing thing about Tess is that there was just, I guess we'll save it for next week, she just didn't work as a character.
Yeah.
And a large part of that is because of storytelling, of the start and stop of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Ross is undercover because, as we saw the last episode, he was trying to protect himself and his family. But the thing is, we don't realize at the beginning of the episode that it's like a double cross, that he's actually doing this to help the British.
I mean, yeah, that's obvious.
I know, but they don't play it that way because he doesn't reveal his plans. We just see him doing his.
Well, I figured he was going to feed the information to Wickham and stop the invasion as it was going to happen.
Well, I'm a slow man, Dave.
It's been a long weekend of 10 hours of wrestling.
Yep, I had to dumb down my brain to watch all the wrestling, and then I had to kind of level it back up for Poldark. So, anyways, though, he does have a conversation though with Dwight, and Dwight's saying, "I heard you're Tess, man. What are you doing?"
Ross is like, "Leave me out of it." Oh yeah, he says, "I don't love her. I don't love my wife anymore."
Which, the silliness of this is taken to the extreme where, like, Dwight's like, "All right, man. Do whatever." Ross gives him some instructions to go to Nampura, lock himself in the basement for a while, and then take some notes.
Yeah, write down what you hear.
How long do you think Dwight is locked in the basement?
Long time. Probably a couple hours.
You don't see any food down there? You don't see anything to drink?
We doesn't want him to fart or burp or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
Or pee or poop. Like, go down there. You got to... Just write down what you hear, and that's it.
I think I would have liked the scene better if they're in there having a serious conversation. It's like, what does that smell?
You smell like beans in here.
It smells like Dookie. What is going on? Dwight just had to take care of business.
Or he really has to pee, and he's like...
Ross really abuses Dwight as a friend. He really does.
Which I think he's lying to everybody's face in this episode.
Yeah, which I think is partially why Dwight immediately goes back to his wife and tells her, yeah, he's lying about stuff. He's undercover pretty much to save his family. Which then Caroline, she sees Demelza and her family show up. They want to stay with her until, I guess, Verity is coming through with Blamey to take them away.
Yeah, thank God they said her name once this season.
Yeah, I know. Acknowledged she existed. And then Caroline lets her know. And it's like, Ross, you literally went through all of this, and you didn't realize that if you told anything to Dwight, he was probably going to tell his wife, who would then tell Demelza.
Who then told Prudy? Everybody knows.
Yeah, what a dumb man. Like, I feel like the show is just kind of underserving Ross.
Also,
here.
just to assume that none of Hanson's goons, Burkett or whatever, we get his name this week, the spy, that this fella's lurking around
all the time.
Or that Tess might just tell Hanson. She has a history of giving him information.
Right. Also, what is the security at his home? Where there people just keep... There's like 3 or 4 times this episode, people just barge in Ross's door. Open door policy there. And the spy's...
I don't think there's a lock.
No, and the spy's just hanging out the entire time. Not once does anyone say, like, hey, you...
With a horse.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I've seen you around. You want to get a drink? You looking for work or something?
I don't know what's going on. A lot of convenience going on with the plot this episode.
Absolutely, a ton of convenience.
So yeah, Ross the dummy gets played because Demelza immediately figures out what's going on and comes back to him and says, "You didn't think I was not going to find out about this?"
Well, she doesn't quite do that,
right? Well, no, she. Well, I guess I'm jumping ahead a bit. She does have a scene where she gives Ross the opportunity to come up and fess up about Tess, and he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and similarly to Dwight talking about Karen, they feel the need to bring up Hugh Armitage and Elizabeth again.
Yeah.
Just like one more time for old time's sake. It's like, don't waste our time with this.
But, I mean, that did sell me a little bit on, like, what is Ross up to? Because he's really making it hard for Demelza right now with her infidelity.
Of all these people in the show, Caroline, Dwight, Prudy, Demelza. I would just go right to Demelza first and say, hey, I'm deep undercover. I'm not going to do anything bad.
Yeah.
But I might have to do things that are like bad adjacent.
And then Demelza still shames Ross because she's like, you're hurting a poor girl's heart. And he's like, it's Tess.
She's evil. She's from hell.
All the same. Well.
Yeah, but Demelza said she pities Tess. Tess tried to burn your house to the ground.
Yeah, you'd think she'd know better.
Yeah.
So anyways, though, I forget. This all starts to jumble together. But
so George tells Hanson and Mercer on about this, and they're like, this is just the information we need to have him hung. It's fantastic.
By the way,
this is all perfect.
They're hanging around Cornwall. There's even a scene where Ross is saying to them, you guys are just going to keep hanging around here? You don't want to leave?
What is your problem with me?
It's just at the local bar. They're all just hanging out.
Yeah. And so George tries to... so what happens is this general comes from France.
Yeah.
That Ross's guy, what's the general's name? Toussaint.
Yeah, Toussaint.
General Toussaint comes from France to meet up with Ross.
Yeah, I think he's
high-ranking general. Mm-hmm. Whatever he is, he comes, and this is where Dwight takes those notes about what they have, and then he sends this in an envelope to give to Wickham in London.
Yeah.
It is then intercepted by Hanson and Merceron and George, who then read it. And George is like, well, our whole case against Ross, we're going to have him hung as being treason and get him just like we got his boy. But now, he's a patriot. He's a true hero. We've messed up. To which Hanson and Mercer are like, who's to say they have to find out?
Yeah. We can really use this to our advantage. And why does this paperwork smell like piss? What happened to this paperwork?
This guy little turds like he had to wipe his behind with it.
Dwight was down there for at least 5 or 6 hours, unquestionably.
The last sentence is, I'm sorry for the mess on the paper.
Please deliver to Wickham immediately.
He tipped the horse, the rider, very well, saying, apologize for the smell.
Oh, man. Anyway.
So, these guys, regardless of the smell of the letter, they're like, we need to triple cross Ross or however you want to do it. Mm-hmm. We need to go tell Toussaint that Ross has been a snitch.
Yeah.
He's been a double agent the whole time. So then they just go to do it.
Right. So Ross has Toussaint over, and they're talking about plans of, what the invasion's going to look like, what they're going to get up to. And they're even kind of bonding, like, oh, yeah, I like swords and stuff. Oh, me too. They actually seem like they're getting on well. And then Merceron walks in.
Well, then Demelza comes in first.
Oh, Hanson walks in. Oh, yeah,
Demelza.
Yep.
Demelza comes in, and she's like, oh, you're, she kind of subtly flirts with Toussaint, who also has a conversation with Ross about how cheating is great. Mm-hmm. And, like, why be faithful to your spouse?
Yeah. Which, I mean, of course, the French people love to hear, so he's lapping it up.
Yeah. And they're talking about Napoleon the whole time. Like, what's Bonaparte's plan for this?
Yeah.
And then Ned walks in, he's like, this is what I have. Like, he was going to snitch on you the whole time, and then
Guns akimbo.
Like,
he's got two pistols.
Ross is like, you got me, you son of a gun. I can't believe you did this. And then Toussaint's like, all right, I'm going to kill you. And then Demelza's like, I hate his guts.
Make him suffer.
Make it serious. And then Hanson's like, can't we just kill him real quick, please?
Toussaint, no, he wants to have fun.
Yeah. And it's like, Ross is like, this guy's not like a French sympathizer. He's just a greedy SOB. All he wants is money, and he wants his reputation to be whatever he wants. So Ross gets a little moment, And they're like, all right, fine, we'll have a duel with swords.
I mean, because that's
And
what
I
they
was
bonded over just like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's story clues.
This is good breadcrumb storytelling, because how many times do we see Ross training with Ned this season on sword fighting? A couple times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's ready to go.
And in true, they have a sword fight in the moonlight.
Yep.
Pretty good fight. And Ross resorts to his fist a few times.
I was so amped up to see that. That's all I wanted to see in this finale was Ross punch a guy a few more times. And the fact that he had a sword in his hand while he was doing it, even better.
That's great. Yeah, good Ross fight in this one.
And I do like that he almost gets got. Like, Toussaint could have literally murdered him, but he wanted to keep playing with him. He liked having a sparring partner.
Mm-hmm. But he doesn't get to finish the fight.
Hanson's just standing there with the guns the whole time, just, can I shoot yet?
Can I shoot the SOB? I just want to do it, please. Please.
Yeah. We get to the highlight of the episode here.
But it's not Hanson that gets to shoot the shot.
Mm-mm. It's George.
It's George. I was like, woo!
Oh, man, I popped so hard.
That was great moment.
Incredible.
Moment.
He shoots. He has guns in two hands and makes both shots. He hits Hanson, and then he gets Toussaint right in the throat.
And kills him.
Right, because Dwight comes in immediately, and it says very plainly, oh, he's dead. Like, no gravity to his voice or anything. It's just like, oh, you killed him. Like, you shot him in the throat.
But I do like that George immediately goes back into George mode when he's like, why don't we kill Hanson too while we're here? Just make it a clean situation where he's dead too. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
He'll live.
Yep. And then Ross and George have a glass of brandy.
Yeah, great scene. Great scene. This is the scene that we needed.
Yeah, where they're just kind of like, well, we just go back to the way things were before, where we were just like enemies. That was fun.
Yeah, he's like, I'll always be in your debt.
But I'd hate you.
And they're like, all right, cool, see ya.
Yeah, just keep it frosty between the two of them.
In the meanwhile, while this is happening, Sam, Drake, and Zachy just do everything perfectly.
Oh, right. So Ross did ask for a distraction that Hanson and Mercer kind of messed up by intruding on Ross and Toussaint, but they were supposed to set off these fireworks in the caves. That, yeah, as you said, Zachy was overjoyed to do. He's like, oh yeah, let's blow them up. Because they're going to...
Yeah, so basically they lock a bunch of the French troops and sympathizers in the mine.
Yeah.
They collapse a part of the mine and then get the guns out.
Which is... Yeah, because Ross is going to... He's already delivered in his mind, he's already delivering the news of this invasion and stuff. So everything's kind of like put to bed, pretty pat there, except for this. But there's something kind of scary about the way Zachy and them blow up the mines, and he's gleeful about it. And it's like, you just murdered probably a half dozen men or more.
I think he trapped them. I don't think they're murdered.
Well,
and if Zachy did murder them, they're the French.
Okay. And we know the British, they hate their French.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as we said earlier, Drake gets called away to go see his baby that got pooped out. And yeah, they do trap him in. And so...
And I like that Ross and Demelza are like so hunky-dory immediately after this like almost double homicide that happens on their property.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't believe you made this work so effortlessly. And she's like, you were doing such a great job. If I were Demelza, I would be like, you listen to me, Ross. You've been lying to me about putting your life on the line as a French sympathizer. You saw what happened to your friend last week, Despard, and you're still doing treacherous things with these guys around. Like, I'd say, you're sleeping on the couch tonight, Ross. But no, she's like, I'm thrilled.
Because they have to rush to the resolution here in the episode. But, yeah, I mean, everything is pretty much corrected. He has Hanson, give him back the letter so it could be sent to Wickham. And... yeah, he's got them by the neck. He's going to just make sure they're in jail or whatever.
Yeah, and Wickham basically says, like, well, you've done what you can, but it's not enough. I'm going to need you to do more. And then it's like, I really don't need another 10 minutes of this episode.
Yeah.
But it keeps on going where, like, how are we going to get Hanson and Mercer on? It's like, well, if the big government can't do it, maybe the small government can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is so stupid.
And they're both standing there in their nightgowns. Billowy, large nightgowns. And
getting arrested for possession of illegal brandy.
Yep. But they'll
and then
yeah.
The judge is like, this better be good. And they're like, you know who we are? Mercer's like, I'm a magistrate. I'm going to get us out of this quickly. And then Ross is in a chair in the same room. I don't know, like, what is going on? He's like, I have a list of all these guys' crimes. And he says, oh, they're going to be in the Truro jail for a couple of days at least.
Yep. So
that's all we get for them.
Great. And the one thing about, just going back to the Wiccan piece, he's like, remember how I told you earlier this season about being a covert op? Well, yeah, revisit that. The way he calls back to this thing, like, oh yeah, we're supposed to remember that happened.
Yeah, but in my head, I thought Ross was being a covert op the whole time, trying to get these French guys. It's like, no, that was a side hustle you did just to redeem your name.
Yeah. And the Ross and DeMel's of all, yeah, she does forgive him immediately, and then they make love. Like, everything's all set. Also, yeah, we mention that Prudy knew the whole time too that everything was going on.
Well, I think she knew at the same time that Caroline did.
Yeah, it's like, man, they really dropped the ball in doing more with Prudy.
Loose lips here.
Where was Garrick, by the way?
They met. Garrick is in the shot when they're at Dwight and
oh really?
Dwight and Caroline's house. You see Garrick is there. Like, there's like the perfect shot of the Cloence and Jeremy and Demelza and Garrick. And we see Horace gets a little shot too. In this one, he's sleeping on the chair.
Yep. So, yeah. So we get to the last scene, where it's just a bunch of happy endings for everyone. Where you see Sam and Rosina happy. You see the baby with Drake and Rowena. You see Tess being sent off. You see Dwight and Caroline being happy. But by the way, Dwight's going to be working with Ross. Covert. So it's like, you had a cushy job. You're writing papers and stuff. You'd rather do this? Okay.
Sure.
But I thought, the way I interpreted it was Wickham was asking him to do this to then convict Mercer and Hanson. This was like the only way forward was for him. If he wanted to get them to be put away for good, you have to agree to this. But
maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
I just don't buy that.
It's clumsy.
Yeah, Dwight's really going to give up his life of luxury for this, sitting in a little hole somewhere, right, taking notes while Ross does some work.
Yeah. Oh, also, Demelza's pregnant. We keep dancing around it.
And she wants to name the child. He wants to name the child Henry, which is. I'm so glad to hear a reasonable name for once of a child. And hers is Isabella.
Fine.
Isabella Rose, sorry.
That's fine.
They really have those names ready to go. Off the rip.
Yeah. And they do their little poem about 2 hearts, 1 beat. And they send us packing.
Yeah.
And we also skipped over a few little things.
Oh, by the way, the Henry and Isabella Rose thing is a wink and a nod to 2 children that eventually pop up in the book. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. So Valentine wanted a mine. George wanted to joke gift him Wheel Leisure.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, George comes and says, "Hey, man, I'm leaving my house," which is where I thought he was going to say, "I'm going to leave it to that bum Jeffrey Charles just because I don't want it anymore." But he goes, "No, I'm leaving. And don't let Valentine talk to you again. He's not related to you." And it's like, okay.
Well, it's not like okay. Ross just kind of solemnly nods his head like, yeah, I guess I can't really claim that child as my own because it's just
like now's not the time to fight. That's what season 6 is for.
Yeah. That's fine. He's good with that. But it is funny because the entire time Valentine just wants to open a mind and connect with Uncle Ross. And
Uncle Ross is going to teach me. And I thought in this moment George was going to be like, all right, fine, you can hang out with Uncle Ross. But no, it's like George can't change like that.
Yeah.
And there's the moment where I think where George and Ross are talking when they're having the brandy, where George is like, Ross is like, you know, I will owe you forever, and that's just what it is. And George is like, I relish having someone owe me anything, whereas you just don't, you know, you accept it. And you see, I think that, like, this reminded me a bit of Justified, where, spoiler alert, I don't remember the end of Justified all that well, but that you know, Timothy Oliphant and what's his name, Baby Billy, Walton Goggins are, you know, the whole time they have this tension between them. They're good guy, bad guy, and at the end of the show, they're like, we had something in common once. Let's put it all behind us and just, you know, we can always agree on the good times.
Yeah.
But Ross is, you know, this could have been a moment for George to be like, I don't want Valentine here because I don't want you putting frogs in his pants or something like that. Or, you know, Elizabeth loved both of us.
Why or something.
Let's call it a day or something. This was all Francis's mess that we had to clean up. Something to, like, tie it up. But he's like, no, don't talk to Valentine.
That's fine. Then, I'm okay with that, though.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't want George having the peaceful ending. And this leaves him as sort of conflicted.
Well, I think he needs peace because he's kind of, in his own way, he's been tormented each of the seasons as well. Just, you know, trying to make the relationship with Elizabeth work, and just, you know, Ross being always up in his business, even though, you know, it's partially himself to blame. So I'm fine with leaving him contented for whatever it's worth. I did like the moment early in the episode, though, where he's talking to Uncle Carrie, and he's like, what better thing to do than to leave a mine that belong, you know, to you know, a relative of Ross's that he'll never get to have, boy that he wants. And then the way Uncle Carrie laughs, where he's just like,
Uncle Carrie has a good time in this episode. He's like, I'm just here for the ride at this point.
Oh yeah, he's laughing it up the entire time.
On the same token, this is brought up early in the episode where Dwight is talking about Ross and Elizabeth, and he's like, you don't know the things that you've done to those two, like George, you know, and I think he's about to outright tell Ross in that moment, she basically died because of you two having a kid together.
Yeah.
And then he just, like, you know, I thought that was the time for Ross to have some introspection, but, you know, Dwight backs off because Dwight had that medicine the whole time. Dwight took it from the scene, you know, the scene of her death.
That was a good moment, though, because you could see Ross for a moment recognizing, oh, I may be the reason why everyone else has issues around me in some ways, but he's so caught up in his moment that he can't really look past, like, nope, gotta stick to the mission.
And I think that's the first time someone other than Demelza has said, like, you're Valentine's dad, boy. But Dwight very, very easily could have said, I helped your wife, or, you know, I helped Elizabeth give birth to a baby early because you and your pride had to go sleep with her that one time. And Dwight doesn't, you know, Dwight takes the high road.
Right. But
we also see in George's parting shot, we see one last time he sees the spirit of Elizabeth walking into the house. Now, is this supposed to signify he is emotionally closed the door, you know, he's moving forward from Elizabeth, or is he going to go back?
It's either it's closed the door or they're setting up a spin-off with Elizabeth's ghost haunting George in the house. And it's a comedic.
That he doesn't live in anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
No, she's just haunting Bessie, who's still on the payroll.
Yep. So, I just kind of find it funny, though, that they're closing Trenwith for good, and it's like, that's the Poldark home. You're just going to... People are going to move into there, probably.
Yeah, that's why I thought, like, Jeffrey Charles would inherit that house, or Valentine would inherit that. No, Valentine's
it's going to be Jacka who's living there soon enough, because no one's paying attention.
Yeah, Tess.
or Harry. But
or why not Drake and Morwenna?
Could be. So
should be. But I feel like that's if we. I'll leapfrog ahead of you. Good finale, bad finale, finale, middle finale.
Yeah.
Some things were great. The idea of bringing the boys together to do one last heist, I loved it. And I love the idea that even though Ross has been deceptive to Demelza, he knows, like, everyone trusts me. Everyone knows that I've been doing something for the greater good. Or let's go do it. But
I'm similar. That's
a lot of the rest of the stuff fell flat for me.
I'm similar. That's although I disagree even more on the Ross side of things. I feel like this entire episode is out of character from him that we've seen thus far. That he literally, it really just kind of reduces him to having learned absolutely nothing over the course of 5 seasons. That he's going to continue lying to Demelza yet again.
And get away with it.
Right. Think that his plan will work. Mind you, he literally gets almost knifed. The gun is pointed to him because he's made the wrong choices. Like, he's straight up made the wrong choices. It's only the Deus Ex Machina of George walking in or Demelza saving him again that he's able to get out of this. He doesn't learn. They make it seem like he learns nothing, and the show ends with him marching off to keep doing his own thing, even though his own child is going to be born again, or another child's going to be born. It's just makes Ross seem like he hasn't evolved at all over the course of 5 seasons. So it makes me wonder, what have I been watching exactly? So it actually makes the show worse.
And none of them. It's kind of like Seinfeld. Like, what has George learned? He's still bitter and angry, and he can't make peace with his past. And he still has all these struggles. I mean, Dwight is ultimately still just a lackey.
In some ways, George has evolved the most because he's realized, just stop trying to make a fuss, be at peace with it.
Be done with it, yeah.
Exactly.
Raise the boy.
And the daughter.
Mm-hmm. Ursula.
Yep. So, there you have it.
Yeah. Let's want to get to these final power rankings.
Yeah, and before we get to that, we will be recapping the entire season next week, or almost the whole series, right?
What we can do what we've done with Downton Abbey is we've done the entire final season and then broken down the power rankings of the whole show. So
we'll do
next week we can do a little brief, couple minutes, shorter episode next week about breaking down the season, and then the week after we'll do the final power rankings of Poldark.
Okay. All right.
Unless it comes back for season 6, and then we.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, do you want to get started on the power rankings this week?
Yeah. Well, so going down number 3, I got the French. They tried to make this whole invasion thing happen, and it's shut down from the jump because they trusted this man, Ross Poldark. What fools! They really did not do it right.
Yeah, didn't they check his LinkedIn? Like, he doesn't have a good history right here.
Yeah, just because he talks ill of the royal crown doesn't mean he is actually a negative Nancy on royalty. Come on now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the French do get played, and the sympathizers as well. I got Jeffrey Charles at number 3. This poor guy doesn't get nothing this episode. He doesn't get his family's house.
Yeah.
He has to go back to work. The girl doesn't come back for him. Everyone around him tells him, forget about the girl. Like, have we learned nothing from these period shows? The girl's going to come back. She doesn't. Jeffrey Charles is a victim of subverting expectations in this episode, and he does not. Even this poor version of Jeffrey Charles does not deserve this ending.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's a character they've always struggled to elevate throughout the series as being a more important player than he was, but yeah, oh well. He's not on my ranking, spoiler alert.
Okay.
Number 2, I got Tess.
I got Tess at number 2 as well.
She's dragged through the mud by Ross. She gets played thoroughly. And she doesn't end up with Sam. She had a good man there wrapped around her finger.
Yeah, and she's given, much like George, she's given the opportunity to grow. Mm-hmm. And all she can say is, why didn't you turn me in, kind of thing. Yep. She doesn't recognize the fact that this is an opportunity to turn a new leaf. She just sees it as like, oh, you didn't send me away. Mm-hmm. Why? Okay, I'll see you later. I'm going to go cause more trouble.
So long, Tess. Hardly knew you. Well, number 1, it's Hanson and Mercer on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
These guys are in their nightgowns getting arrested. You can feel the draft with what
Hanson
they're wearing.
gets shot by George.
Yeah. I mean, these guys really thought they were above the law. But no. Mm-hmm. They're all caught up in it.
Yeah.
And to that point,
you can't escape local PD.
What was Hanson doing here this episode? He could have gotten away with his daughter, who he said he was going to go away with. He just couldn't let Ross leave Ross be.
And he mentions, like, oh, she snuck away. Go get her. You're a gazillionaire.
Yeah.
You're really going to let her live in peace in Jamaica?
Did he say she snuck away in Jamaica?
Yeah, he said she snuck away with Kitty on that boat.
Great. Okay. I mean, I guess that was a tiny boat. We saw the boat. But
yeah, Cecily's not going to adapt to that life.
Yeah. Dave, who's going up for you?
Number 3, I got George.
Okay.
The man comes in just when we need him, and he has a slight babyface turn. Talking about coming off of WrestleMania, this is a crowd pop moment. George says, no, like, it doesn't matter how much I don't like Ross. You're not screwing him for money. I'm a lord. And he hits both of those shots.
That's true. Well, and he's also doing it for the crown. That's what he really says. I'm not doing it for us. I'm doing it for the country. Well, number 3, I got Ross. He's a dummy this episode, but he still gets the job done. He still stops the French invasion.
Okay.
Terrible, horrible person, but he did his job. You know.
Yeah, I got him at number 2 because not only he gets the job done, despite the fact that everyone around him, both the people that are like in on the lark of it all and the people that are spying on him, manage to try to insert themselves into his situation.
Yeah.
Despite all that, he gets through it, and he gets everything that he wants, and he's got another kid on the way, and he gets to go do more adventures.
There you have it on Ross. Well, number 2, I got Demelza.
Okay.
Look, she saves Ross's hide there by sweet talking the French captain, and she's pretty much there to help bring Ross to his senses every time he's wheeling out. So she's just good at what she does, honestly.
Yeah.
Handy. And they also,
that's why I have her at number 1 for all those reasons. You want to talk about how Ross has not evolved at all, aside from the fact that maybe she shouldn't be with Ross anymore. Demelza's glow up of the show, despite the fact that she only has the one Fiona dress, she has made herself the most vital and important person in Cornwall, in their little town. And the way she treats Ross, she's like, she has the strength of will when she thinks he's cheating on her with Tess to get the family, pack their things, and get out of town.
Yeah.
She's not abused by Ross when she finds out. She gets out.
They really do try out
until she finds out the truth.
They tried out the skullduggery line a lot this episode again, just to remind you of where she came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she is the best, and you'll see that in the rankings too.
Star of the
She'll
show.
come up at the top. But this week it's George, and I don't understand how you can't have George at number 1. He literally saves Ross from getting murdered. Like, what more do you want out of it? He also kills a man in cold blood. He also tells Ross.
I think his end is so blech for
Dave,
me.
he tells Ross, Valentine's not going to see you anymore, and Ross just takes it on the lip because it's like, well, I owe this man my life. And then he's also telling Ross, I'm shutting down Trenwith. I'm not going to live there anymore. I know that's your family home. Too bad. It's going to be empty. Sucks to be you. I'm George. I'm going to go live nice in my high life. He starts slapping his shoulders, floppy
but he's
fishing
not
out the door.
happy about it. I'm going to go see a ghost one more time on the way out the door.
George absolutely wins this week. He comes to his senses. He's almost more responsible for Hanson and Mercer being turned down than Ross, because he's the one who stops their plans.
Mm-hmm.
Ross should be kissing George's feet, 100%.
Well, I mean, he's beat him up enough times. I think Ross is like, all right, I won't hit you this time.
You'd think, though, after that thing, Ross would be a little bit shaken, like, I don't want to get in a gunfight with this guy. He looks like he's ready. He's got a good steady hand there.
Yeah, and we know he trained a lot.
Yep.
In the past. He's ready to go.
Boxing, yeah. George is back, man. This whole season, it took a while, but we got him back. You're lying to yourself to say he's below Ross this week, man.
I think Ross ends the episode in a better place than George.
It doesn't matter. What? Ross ends in a better place. He's going off, leaving his pregnant wife to go.
He loves
undercover.
that, though. That's his dream.
He literally says, he's afraid of going, but Oh,
yeah, sure. Ross loves it.
He's a maniac. And that's Poldark for you. A show about crazy
That's the
people.
show. It definitely. I was waiting, talking about going again to talk about Justified. The one thing they say in Justified is we used to mine coal together.
Used to dig
And
coal together.
I thought that this something would happen where it's like we're just a couple miners who love mines.
Yeah, they used to dig coal together.
Nope, no mine
well,
talk.
George never dug.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's so many things that's not even coming to mind that they just didn't touch on this episode that they just kind of left dangling out there. But we'll talk about it later.
indeed.
But Dave, it was WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah,
Tell me, what's the highlights? What should our listeners know about?
I think what we called last week. I think Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio was fantastic.
Incredible. He took his belt off
Great
and he whipped his
storytelling.
son in the middle of the ring, and the crowd went wild. I wish I was making that up, but that happened.
Well, his son is also a 25-year-old man. It's not
He's
like
a 25-year-old
a
man, and he
boy.
was also telling his mother to shut up in front of everyone.
And I thought you want to look at the women's side of things. I really thought on NXT the women's ladder match was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was a solid match.
I think in this day and age, the ladies are getting the opportunity to do things that historically they have never done, and I've never seen a women's match get that brutal like that. There was some real icky moments there that these girls wanted to throw their bodies around like the boys.
And the ending too was heartwarming to that one too. Good callback. But yeah.
What about you? Anything else aside from Ray and Dom?
I mean, that was really the highlight. I wasn't as invested in any of this bloodline stuff, except until last night, where if you follow wrestling at all, there's a huge contingent of fans today that are very upset because Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns. And part of that is just because Roman's been the champion for 3 years, and we're all sick of seeing it. And Cody may have not been the right guy to take the belt off him, but the thing is, the story they told in the match did not align with the narrative, which is like, oh no, he's earned it in this match. He should be the one to do it, and then they just made the wrong call, and we have to sit through another long match of Roman getting his butt beat to finally drop the belts to someone. It's exhausting. This is why soap operas are really test patience at times.
So we're 2 for 2 this week as far as disappointing finales.
100%. But I think we can leave it there. We've been talking a lot this week. We're over an hour right now.
Lots to talk about. And next, we have a lot more Poldark to break down.
Yeah.
We're going to do this. We're going to send this ship off in the best way possible over the next couple weeks.
Yep. And you know where to find us. We have a Patreon with some bonus material out there and our Lord's Grantham Lounge access. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook. Hit us up at Gmail. Instagram, we're out there. You can leave us 5-star rating and review if you so choose on our podcasts. Anywhere where you get your podcast. Man, my brain is fried. And also, we have our Podbean website with all our episodes out there as well.
All right.
Thank you all.